Welcome everybody. My name is Veerle van Hal. I'm really happy that you're all here. I'm the project leader of Urgent Ecologies. Welcome to the symposium. The first symposium we organized together with the Wood Workshop. And this time it's all about the Dutch elm. And there will be 3 lectures. And I first want to give the floor to Simon Lelieveldt.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Simon Lelieveldt. Dutch elm, transition in time and form. I thought I'm going to do very practical stuff, but I figured I'm going to choose a subtitle that is very philosophical. So you can have your pick whether you want to go for the practical way, what do I do with wood or paper, or whether you want to go for the big reflections of life. Because that's sort of what I do in my work. I work in the banking sector, I do a lot of stuff for rules and stuff, but I always look at history, because history tells you where you go and where you're coming from. So that's sort of my life philosophy, and sometimes you run across a tree and they chop down the tree and then you think, this is not true. Why did they do it? This beautiful tree over there, in front, on the Exchange Square, the financial center of Amsterdam, they chopped it down. And I was using the tree for all my guided tours. So I'm showing bankers the city of Amsterdam, telling about the history, stuff like that. And my tree is gone. And the tree had the letters now on it. Very significant, as you will find out. Let's see if I can make this work. Welcome to Amsterdam. Yeah, this is a Czech question, because how many of you are from the Netherlands or Amsterdam? We're doing this in English. Okay, so you're familiar with Amsterdam. This year is a special year. Amsterdam celebrates its 750th anniversary. And again, those anniversaries are a product of our mind rather than true anniversaries. But you have to choose some birthday. So let's hit it off with what I'm going to do in this presentation is present to you the history of Amsterdam. So you can discuss with your friends. You can make pretend that you know everything about the history of Amsterdam and you make smart, clever remarks. But I'm going to link it to this Dutch elm, which stood in front of the Exchange Square, and to the possibility for you to use paper made from the elm, or if it's very special, we can choose perhaps a bit of wood that you might be able to use to create your own art product, which reflects on Amsterdam financial history and ecology. Because it's a circle of life, and we're going to have a look at it. So I'm going to distinguish the history of Amsterdam in 5 bits. Again, a product of the mind, because history is what someone prints or puts of his mind onto events. The first one, 1275, until the first 300 years, Amsterdam sort of grew from a small city into a big harbor with bulk trade. So massive trades, and grain trade was the mother trade of Amsterdam. For many reasons, we traded a lot of grain. Next up is a period in time where in the Netherlands we sort of say, yeah, this is the golden age or the golden century, but nowadays we don't say it's a golden century anymore. Because effectively what we did is we built bigger ships, we started sailing towards Indonesia, and the Netherlands basically became a colonist usurpating country. We were basically killing islands of people because they did not want to sell the pepper for the price we wanted. Over time, as history progresses, some of the Dutch people first thought, well, we are solid adventurers, and right now we sort of start to recognize, this is quite a rather big human rights failure that we had in our history. So we must never look away from those pages. So I'm summarizing the Amsterdam financial history, which has a lot of interesting financial innovations. But you should always know it's blood money. It's blood money. We just made money by killing off everyone, by sending off. We were the ugliest early capitalists that existed. It's a sad track record, and it requires that we know ourselves, what we do in the present. If this is your past, you also have an obligation in the present. I'm going to tell about that a little later. But the Netherlands is a small country. And while some of the other countries around us were busy with their own home, getting their home in order, within 100 years of time, we became too big and too financially powerful. And the effect was that the neighboring countries, the French, Germans, the French, the Germans, and the English, they were basically going in for the Netherlands, and they were occupying the Netherlands. In 1672 is our disaster year. And from that point in time, the Netherlands breaks down. The Dutch ruler moves to England, becomes the king in England, and the center of trade, the center of commerce moves from the Netherlands to the UK, to London. And later on from London, it moves, after the First World War, it moves to New York, and now we're wondering where is it going to move next? Because there's a lot of geopolitical movements going on. Now, if you look at the Netherlands, basically what happened is we made a lot of money. This blood money is sitting on our hands, and we're sort of investing it in bonds, in securities, in new ventures. So we start to become a very rich, dull, boring, sleepy country. I mean, we had innovation, but we're falling asleep while being rich. That's sort of what happens. French come in, take over our country. We are really asleep. Then Dutch government is getting broke. Then the other European countries think Napoleon isn't fit to exist and to be a ruler, and they kick out Napoleon. They declare a peace treaty, let's say, in 1814, and then the Netherlands starts to become into existence as a formal country. Basically, reason being, the English didn't want to have Germany on the border at the North Sea. So they said, didn't we have something like the Netherlands over there? Yeah, okay, let's put it back. So we were basically, in 1814, we were put back in place as a buffer state against the Germans. And that's sort of the geopolitical game that happens. Slowly, at that point in time, we still have the connection with Indonesia. So we're still exploiting other countries. And that sort of is our secret moneymaker. So by exploiting Indonesia, we are able to sort of revive and turn the Netherlands back in. Slowly, we rebuild the economy. Slowly, because as the proverb goes, in the Netherlands, everything happens 50 years later. This is dating from this point in time. We were very slow, we'd fallen asleep, and gradually we moved on. But mind you, like about 1900, so 125 years ago, there was a discussion, okay, should we do sailing by wind or by steam engine? You had the steamboats. And then the Amsterdam people, commerce said, no. Steam, that's, no. We're going to do the old-fashioned way. So we're sort of conservative. We'd grown like that, but there was also a revival going on. Now, from the 1930s on, is a period that I call modernity because it's the closer you get to today, the harder it is to make accurate descriptions of that time. We can see it's modern with a lot of flavors. So there you have the 5 bits and pieces of the history of Amsterdam. The 5 flavors that I see. We start out, we become very rich by exploiting other countries. We fall asleep. We get back on our feet, and we enter the modern world. That's a summary. Now let's rebuild the summary again. First of all, but now we're going to rebuild it with the elm, the Dutch elm, in mind. And now we're transitioning form and time and history. So first off, there's the elm that stood on the Exchange Square, but it's now a pulpit. It's been made, and we have the honor. I'm going to take up the now. You've seen the now. So you can. To the streamers, I am walking to the pulpit to demonstrate to the audience how very beautiful, what a very great tree this is. And we are lucky to have the artist who made the tree, who made this pulpit in our midst. It's Daan Simons. Daan, would you please stand up? Yeah, he doesn't know I was going to do this. So there's this beautiful part of the tree. Basically what happened is I was doing these tours in the Amsterdam center, the tree got chopped down, so I phoned Criso, who's going to talk later. I found out that the tree was lying at Citywood, at Stadshout, and I figured, how are we going to preserve this now? Because this now on the tree was something I wanted to preserve. And then at that moment in time, Dan and I knew each other, and we were sort of wondering, well, what to do? And lots of ideas came from that. So here we go back in time, just 1 year before, and there's the tree, just a great tree. And on the tree bark, you can see the yellow letters now. You probably cannot see it due to the darkness, but it is there. Now, if we go back in time, the now on the tree dates from 2011 or 2012, which was the moment in time that there was a big demonstration after the financial crisis on the inequality of wealth and income. And they were basically occupying the Exchange Square to protest against this inequality. Now, if we even go further back in time, in 1903, the tree is also there. You can see the Bible Hotel. It's not the Exchange building, but the Bible Hotel that is visible. And there's the tree already, and the tree is witnessing the opening of the exchange, the Beursplein Exchange in Amsterdam, which happened in 1903. Now the elm, the Dutch elm, is a very typical tree. Amsterdam is also called the capital, the elm capital of the world, because we placed a huge bunch of elms. The elm as a tree is very resistant to salt, to wind, to all kinds of stuff that you have in cities like Amsterdam. Sea wind, a lot of wind. It sucks up water like no other tree. They are telling me, I'm not a tree specialist, but they're telling me. It's being used in the windmills when the windmills need to change direction to orient themselves towards the wind. The rolling trees that are being used on which the top of the windmill moves are made from ipe, from elm, from Dutch elm, because it's so tough wood. So the elm has a very specific place in our history, and it goes back even until 1672, until the 1670s. So in the period of time, almost half of the history of Amsterdam, we have elms in our midst. And it's even the case that travelers who came to the Netherlands were saying, well, is this still a city? They were used to like packed cities without trees, and they looked at the canals and the trees. Well, we don't know if it's a village or a forest or a city. There's so many trees. So the elms are really a vital part of the Amsterdam city. And they are also, Amsterdam's city design is recognized by the UNESCO as a World Heritage Site, the canal structure. And within the canal structure, there are all these elms. So they are also part of this historic World Heritage designation. So they have a real place in history. I mean, it's not like any other tree. It's really serious bit of tree, I would say. And I'm sort of the proud guardian of this elm, so to speak. Now let's move to some moments in time of the Amsterdam history. There we go. I'm going to jump through history to some bits and pieces, because there's a lot more to say, of course. But I'm focusing on paper, because we have paper from the tree available for you as students here to use in art projects. And Leo Hoege is also going to talk about making paper, so I'm connecting the different bits of the presentation this afternoon. Now, the first bit of paper that we have in Amsterdam, some people, of course, know this, because I think there's a couple of very history buffs in the audience. But to the students of Rietveld, I would ask, what would you think is the most important document that we started guarding in Amsterdam when we wanted to preserve something from Amsterdam, the oldest document that we have in our archives, in our vaults? What would that be? Any ideas? Anything goes. Could be work of art. Yeah? Oh, okay, a deed. For example, a commercial deed on a transaction. Oh, okay. No, yeah. Well, we have lots of those. There's like this huge bunch of notarial deeds that we have digitized, and you can really find a mountain of there, but it's not a notarial deed. It is almost a notarial deed, but slightly different. It's from a very specific person. Does anyone have a further idea? Yeah? Now you're getting close. A city, of course, wants city rights. And once you have the city rights, you're going to preserve it, right? That's the most, I would say, that's the most important document. But not for Amsterdam. We are a trading city. What's even more important than city rights? The level of the water. Aha. That brings me to a whole different discussion. There's the Amsterdam level of water, the new Amsterdam peil, new Amsterdam level, which was set up in the 1670s by Mayor Hudde, which became the international norm for sea level arrangement. So we are known for that as well, but it's not in our papers. Now, even more important is, of course, and this is the die-hard commercial reality, what you want more than city rights is a tax exemption. Yeah, you don't want to pay taxes. No. If you, I mean, that's more valuable. I mean, if you travel and you need to pay taxes and you say, no, not for me, then yeah, okay, you're gonna. That's more valuable than you're from a city. Doesn't matter. I don't care. So the tax exemption is the most important document, and this was basically a sort of a goodie given by the states of Holland to make sure that the Amsterdam merchants would sail via Holland to all the other countries. Now, if Amsterdam was doing these trades in the first 300 years, basically you had to go with your boat up the river to Germany to get wood. But if you're able to outsmart with your ship technology, with your wooden technology, if you're able to outsmart and to build ships that go around, you're gonna not have to pay taxes for a lot of bridges on the way, because each bridge wants you to pay taxes. Each country wants you to pay taxes. So what we did in Amsterdam, we innovated in this shipbuilding industry. We made ships. Okay, so next up, you're going to have a ship. The ship is going to carry grain. Now, only one place in Denmark, the Sond, will ask for tax. Now, how do they calculate the tax? They calculate the tax on square feet of the deck. Okay, we can work with that. So we make specific ships with a tiny deck and a huge belly. Up, and there we go. And we also design them in such a way that that there's not like 50 people needed on board, but that you have efficient personnel allocation. So if you're clever in your woodworking and your shipping industry, well, you can come a long way. So these are, I mean, look at taxes, and that explains a very big deal. That's often the case in history. Look at taxes and legal stuff. There may be lots of other things going on, but the underneath, those are very important. So the tax exemption is one bit of paper that is very, very important. Now the other one, does anyone recognize this? It's in the innovation time. It's, I would say 1600, 1614 to give it away. Aandeel, share, yes, this is the first share. The Amsterdam history sort of says we have the first share in the world. Well, you can really argue about that. But it is true that what happened when we started venturing out towards further countries, towards Indonesia, first what happened was that a lot of merchants were setting off their own boats, going there, making a lot of money. But then the Prime Minister of the Netherlands said, well, this is not smart. We're sort of out-competing each other for trades with luxury goods. We should centralize this. Let's make a united East India Company where we sail towards East India as a collective, where we make sure that we add formal military power to the company, the East India Company, to occupy those other areas and to act in the name of the state. So they could really become a formal occupier of other countries and transact on behalf of the Dutch state. And if you do so, you can protect your monopoly, rather than use real free trade and mechanisms whereby no one has any profit anymore. And you can counter the dangers of the other European countries which are also trying to occupy that area. So create a force of state within a company. That's basically what happened with the East India Company. And those shares are there's a lot to say. I'm going to stick just with saying these shares are one part of the financial history of Amsterdam. They are an extension of what we used to do with small local trade in Europe, but basically it's now international. So that's that bit of paper. Now, next up, there's another institution being set up in 1814. I told you before that the Netherlands were sort of, so the other states in Europe say, okay, we're going to set up the Netherlands. Okay, who's going to be the king there? Don't know. We had a son of a fifth stadhouder, as it's called, somewhere in England, but he was trying to get a job elsewhere. He was trying to become a king in a state of Germany or in France, and he actually didn't want to become Dutch king. But then again, he lost all his options. And then when the Dutch elite looking for a king, because they had a kingdom now, or they had a country, but no king. They were looking for the king. So, yeah, okay, I'm going to do it. There was this heritage line from William of Orange still in place, somehow, if genetic things work out properly. So we say, okay, we have William I become our king in 1814. And he wanted to set up a central bank because he figured that's good for the economy. And he was right, but he also wanted his own ATM machine. He wanted to print money, basically, and use the central bank to do lots of investments in canals and in steamboats or whatever technology he had on his mind. Now, the Dutch financial industry, the bankers had already gone through a very bad period. The Dutch state has gone broke. The Netherlands was in a big mess. So when we set up the central bank, we wouldn't set it up as a government institution because the government had just gone broke. It's not trustworthy. So it's a private central bank that was being set up. And the king set it up. And then he asked the bankers, can you please buy my shares? And the bankers said, no, we're not going to do it. We're going to boycott you. Forget it. We're not going to do it. So the king has some money, and he figures, okay, Now, Johanna Borsky van der Velde, she was the widow of a trader, a financial trader, with a huge amount of money. That's the lady in the picture. She went to the king and she said, hey, king, I hear you're having trouble getting up the central bank. Yeah, those bankers don't want to pay. Shall I just buy all the shares you need? Oh, would you want to do that? Yeah, certainly, but we have to make one deal. You're not going to issue new shares afterwards. I want to make a big profit out of selling it later, and so can we arrange that? Yeah, sure, let's do. And then she went to the central bank itself. She went to the directors of the central bank asking, well, I hear your shares need to be sold. Can I help you? Because I want to buy some of your shares and help you out in setting up the central bank. And then the directors, of course, all males, said, no, the king is not going to allow it. So in principle, it's a good idea, but the king is not going to approve. Then she asked, well, could you do me a favor and ask the king himself? Because she'd already done the deal with the king. So the bankers go to the king, expecting him to say no, and he says, oh, yeah, sure. Okay, what's happening here? She basically filled all the shares of the Dutch central bank. And one day, the financial district in Amsterdam wakes up. And they hear, all the shares are gone. No, it's not true. Yes, who bought them? Johanna Borsky bought them. Clever woman. Within 1 month, she'd resold a lot of those shares to those bankers who were boycotting. Because if you owned those shares, you got some extra goodies and better fees at the central bank. And that's what you wanted. So she outsmarted the male bankers in financial history, and she's famous for that. Her picture is in the boardrooms of the central bank. Although it should be said, in the old central bank, where I used to work 20 years ago, you had the big boardroom with all the male presidents and the small boardroom, and there was the picture of Johanna Borsky. So this male-female distinction. We still have a long way to go in the Netherlands, although the central bank does make up. They set up a Johanna Borsky fund for female investors. So they're trying to make good for past mistakes, but Johanna Borsky seriously deserves credit for setting up the central bank. And the fun thing is, there's wood. There's wood from the Johanna Borsky Bridge. Criso is going to tell you about it. If you want to work with specific wood related to financial history, this is one of the woods you could choose. Central Bank has recently opened in a new building, or in the old building, which is renewed. I'm going to have a look at it to see if Johanna Borsky can be found somewhere as a legend. Now, another piece of paper is an invention of the director of the Amsterdam City Gyro, Mr. Keegstra. Amsterdam was a city which became big. It had a lot of cash runners. Basically, cash runners go around collecting cash for gas, water, energy, and they collect physical cash. We're talking 1920s now. So they had an idea, let's centralize it, let's create a modern banking system, paper-based banking system, a gyro system, and they set it up. Sort of worked nicely. And now the boss of the system said, I'm going to develop a payment form of 10 guilder. And you can transfer it to someone else, and you can either say, put it in my bank account, or you can use it as a banknote. Well, that's sort of, if you're looking at discussions now about digital euro, should the European Central Bank issue a digital euro? This is basically the paper-based digital euro of Amsterdam, but then 100 years ago. And you can imagine what happened when the Amsterdam City Gyro determined or decided to issue this new payment form. The central bank immediately phoned up and said, hey, what are you doing? Banknotes is our turf. No, we have a big invention here. Now, in those days, it was about gentlemen's agreements. So the president of the central bank phoned to the mayor of Amsterdam and said, we're not pleased. And that means, stop it now. So 1,500 of those notes were being used, issued, and then it was gone. So there's not a bit of paper that's a significant financial innovation in history that's worth pointing out, because hardly anyone knows this story. And that's why I find it fun to tell. And next up in this series of events is Occupy Now, which is a demonstration that occurred in 2011. And that links us back to the Elm. There, I think it's better, you can see it better here. Can you see the now in the slide now? Okay, you see the word now. So this is what I was doing. I was pointing out history, I was telling about all kinds of stuff. Like, for example, there's a grain trader in 1600 who writes cartoons with poems. And he basically says, you know, all these emperors and kings, they are buying shells, like seashells, because it's obscure. And it's exquisite, and they pay a lot of money, but they are typically fools. So the concept of a tulip, or they are buying tulip bulbs, even that is mentioned already. The concept of trade being a non-trade or a hyped trade without real economy behind it is old as mankind, you could say. So there's effectively nothing new. So I'm telling this to everyone, nothing new here. And then I asked people, spot the Occupy Now statement on the square. Now, no one sees the now, but as soon as the tree was chopped down, my idea was, I want this bit of bark of the tree, I want this to be a painting in the Amsterdam Museum. We should guard this for later generations. We should remember that what happened here. We should honor the tree effectively. So Occupy Now was a bunch of worldwide protests, self-organized, bottom-up, sit-in demonstrations, and it was against equality or inequality of income and wealth. Now the funny thing is that all press and all financial analysts were saying, well, there's no coherent vision behind this, blah, 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 blah. There's all like you need to have a PR office if you're demonstrating or stuff like that. It was a very interesting phase in time. It's pretty clear that equality of income and wealth is, well, not even and not properly distributed, and that there's a problem, and that this may have well been the problem of the financial crisis. That's obvious, and all those policymakers saying, well, the Occupy people don't have a clue about economic theory. You don't have to know economic theory to know that something doesn't work. I don't have to know how my engine works for a car. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I can see it fail. So that's what's happening here. It's a very relevant protest, and I was wondering, how can I preserve the tree? So lots of stuff. The bankers, you wouldn't believe it. Bankers in the Netherlands actually, I'm guilty. I worked at the Bankers Association for 6 years. I worked there when they developed the banker's oath, which is Scout's honor, I'm going to be honest. I'm the only remaining banker who still does this. All the other banks are basically violating your privacy, your innocence presumption, discriminating against nationality, all in the name of anti-money laundering. It's ridiculous, but it happens. Still, the oath is a mechanism that you can use. So I made an oath to the tree. I was going to do a lecture on salary pay for Ralph Hamers, who was the ING head, CEO of ING. He was making too much money. And basically he was using a remuneration trick, which is like, my variable income may not be very much, but if I just get a lot of fixed income, then I can still get a lot of money. So they did a very obvious remuneration trick to duck all the rules on pay for higher people. And I was going to explain all this in a lecture, but on the day before the lecture, or on the day of the lecture, I was on my way to the lecture with the tree. It was going to be the first lecture from this beautiful pulpit. And then I think, no, I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop in the Exchange Square. I'm going to first put it back where it was. So I put it back. And I had a speech prepared, and you can look at it. I was in my banker's uniform, as you can see. So I had a speech. It's out there on YouTube, and I basically promised the tree, I'm going to guard you. I'm going to guard the principle. I'm going to guard the idea of Occupy Now, the idea to be respectful to history and to ecology. Because what happened is not the thing to happen. So that's what I did. Now let's look into history. Here's the tree. Okay, so I went through like 400 photos in the Beeldbank Amsterdam, and there's lots more. So this is only a tiny fraction. Here's the tree. And I looked it up because the date in the city archive says it's 1920. But you can see it's older than that. And I wanted to check it, so I ran all the pictures to see it. Here's Queen Elizabeth, or Wilhelmina, actually, who opened the exchange in 1903. So that's what the tree witnessed. It witnessed the opening, the celebrations. It saw 4 generations of our royal family pass by. Occupy Now, we just discussed it. And then here's the sad story of the chopped down tree. Number 1670, there it lies. And here's myself and Clisot looking at the trees in Stadshout. Is this the same number? Is this the same tree? Yes, it is. So we found the tree. And then the project started, how can we honor the tree? And how can we honor financial history? And how can we honor reflection of financial history? Well, first thing, let's make a pedestal where you can hold lectures on ecology, reflection, morality, and banking. So that's what we're doing with this one. Second, make a logo. Design a logo that says now, Amsterdam, Beursplein 5, but also says elm. Because if you look, you see the leaves. These are the elm seeds. Right now is a season where the elm, the Dutch elm, lets its seeds go. And if you look around in the city, you can see this, see this happen, and you can hear this sound in the streets of the seeds going on. You can also see bundles of elm seeds, and those are being bitten off by the cockatoos or the foreign birds that chop off too much of our trees. You see the water in the logo, the water of the Amstel, because this is where the Exchange Square actually was, where the Amstel was. And all historic buildings in Amsterdam have the water of the Amstel and the water of the IJ somewhere represented. So that had to be on there. So here's the elm seed. If you don't recognize it, you do now. This is what an elm seed looks like. And Daan actually was the one who said, hey, that's funny. If that's an elm, it's an elm, you've got an ipe cent, an ipe dubbeltje. It's like a coin. Yeah, okay, so let's make coins then. Is it possible to make coins from a tree? No. Has everyone ever done it? No. How would you do it? Well, design your coin print. And this is the print. It says now is the past, is the present, is the future, is the now. It has all the buildings surrounding the square. The 3 X's mark the spot of the tree. And the lily is because my name is Lelieveldt. So I have to be on there somewhere as well. And now is not just the past, the present, and the future, and the now. It's a circular motion, but now is always also, now is the present. The present is always a gift in the now. So it's a source of inspiration. You have the logo. We have actual coins made. Upstairs I have proof coins, the coins that were, because if you want, another artist friend had a coin press from 1903 or somewhere. So we actually tried, Daan made wooden pieces, and we actually printed them like it was metal, but it's not metal, it's wood. So this is a heck of a problem. But that has been solved by Ron Peperkamp. He's been laboriously printing those coins. We had to make a second stempel to get it all right, but we got it right. And we've got books and logos and small coins made, 1,000 coins, numbered coins. And the trick is the following. You can buy them from me, but you can never pass them on and sell them anymore. It's a bit of history, you can only pass it on for free. History is for free. So that's the idea. We made paper out of it. And coasters for putting your beer glass on. 2 very beautiful tables, of which one I'm trying to sell to the OBA still. Of course, this beautiful one. And as for the paper, Leo Hoege will be talking later. He's the paper craftsman, I would say. And here's the logo pressed into the paper. I've got a couple of papers there, and here you see my daughter, who has been making art on the paper. Now that's basically the idea, because if I still have paper of this tree, and if you connect to the story of the tree in Amsterdam Financial History, you're very welcome to use the paper, but we have to make a deal. I'm not going to give away the tree. The tree is forever my property, as well as the paper. But I'm going to give it eternally to any artist who's going to use it and preserve the mindset of Occupy Now, equality, and public open source art. That's the idea. The tree was a public, the art from the tree will be public, and it's an open source reflection on what happens in society, in the financial world. And if you're up to make art somewhere hooked up to that topic, you're happy to do so. And let's see, I moved on too fast. Rini Kooi is present here, she's up here in front. She's the first taker, so she signed the open source agreement. I have a simple open source agreement which says, okay, I'm going to work with your bit of paper and I'm going to give you a digital copy of what I made. And we're going to respect the story of the tree. That's basically the offer that I have for you here. And this is one of the results, the front page and the back page. So this is more, it's either way, it's beautiful. I'm very happy that this happened. There's someone else who's going to use the wood and chip it with NFC chips. And there's someone else who's making lamps out of it. So there's a whole range of people working with the products from the tree right now. And for you, when you feel like, hey, let's work with that paper, or perhaps a bit of wood, although we have to figure stuff out for the wood, but paper is available immediately, then you're welcome to step into this open source stewardship arrangement. I could go on hours about stewardship art, but that's not my turf, that's your turf. But there are many connections with ecology, recycling, being mindful of what happens in society and history. So that's where I see the connection. And well, that's where I end up here at Gerrit Rietveld. I want to thank you for the invitation. I've got this open offer for you as students or teachers. I'm not sure if there's a teacher in the room, but we could also say I'm going to give a bulk of 20 papers to a teacher who's going to work with students on it. I'm happy to do either way. And of course, I've got wood for the wood workshop. I've got a coin. You deserve a coin, of course. So pure wood, because wood works. It's a numbered coin, 1 out of 1,000. To whom may I offer it? No, thank you for the invitation. I hope the talk is inspiring and is helping you out make beautiful art.
Dankjewel, Simon.
Alsjeblieft.
Hartstikke fijn. Wauw.